How's it going, Crusaders? Welcome back to another Bible study. Today we're checking out Genesis 1:26, the creation of man, part 1. This will probably be the longest Bible study that I've done. Got 3 full pages of notes to check out and go over. This is a very important verse, which is why it's so long. Before we get started, I want to talk about the sermons for a minute. As you all know, I've showed this many times, but I have just a bunch of subjects in this cut up into little pieces of paper, and then I'll pray and then pull one out. Well, I did that a couple days ago, and to my surprise, I pulled out a subject that I did not put in there. Let me get it down from my wall right here. I actually have it pinned up, and I pulled this out, and I asked my daughter who put that there. She said she did, and all she was trying to do was be, sweet and stuff like that. But this is what my daughter wrote and put in the cup. So the next sermon is going to be on Jesus. The problem with that is the hardest sermon that I've ever had to do, and after 4 pages of notes, I realized that I'm going to have to break this down into multiple different videos. And Crusaders, no joke, it's probably going to be a 10 to 12 video series talking about Jesus, because that is something that one video, one sermon will do it no justice in any way, shape, or form. So I did the math, looked at all the research, and seeing what all I need to go over and dive into on that subject, and it's literally going to be 10 or 12 videos, just trying to very badly at that summarize Jesus, all he did, who he was, what he accomplished. Like, there is so much, and even after these 10 to 12 videos, I will be lucky, I will be blessed, and I will be happy if I can say that I accomplished being able to summarize 1% of who he was, what he did, and why he was here. But nonetheless, I just wanted to add that in there, Crusaders, because I'm going to be doing sermons on Jesus starting Friday, and it is not easy whatsoever. I've already finished the first video, just kind of talking a little bit about who he was, but Crusaders, is going to be so much to just dive in and so much to go over when it comes to Jesus. So before I continue on digressing, let's jump into the Bible study. So as I said, Genesis 1:26, the creation of man, part 1. Starting off with the King James Version always. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over all the creepy things that creepeth upon the earth." The CSB. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. They will rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the livestock, the whole earth, and the creatures that crawl on the earth." The NIV. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea, and the birds in the sky, over the livestock, and all of the wild animals, and over the creatures that move along the ground." The ESV. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creepy thing that creeps on the earth. The NASB. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creepy thing that creeps on the earth." The NLT. Then God said, "Let us make human beings in our image to be like us. They will reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the livestock, all the wild animals on earth, and all the small animals that scurry along the ground." And then finally, the New King James Version. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have domain over the fish in the sea, over the birds, over the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creepy thing that creeps on the earth." So, not a single translation agrees with each other today, which, as I always say, it's very interesting to me. And the funny thing about today's Bible studies, that we have 4 lessons, which almost never happens, and all 4 of them are pretty lengthy. That's why today's Bible study will be much longer than others. So let's go ahead and check out the first lesson of the day, Crusaders. So, man was created in both the image and likeness of God. An image may be similar, but not necessarily identical to its original. The term likeness is used as a gauge of comparison or analogy. When man fell, he retained an impaired image of God. Regaining a likeness of God is one of the accomplishments of salvation. Our spiritual likeness is restored in justification. Our character likeness is being continually developed in the process of sanctification. We will be like Christ physically when we are glorified. God's purpose in our lives today is to conform us to the image of Christ. So that was the first lesson. The second lesson, God uses plural pronouns, which means, us and our, to refer to himself, and that has raised many questions. At least 5 different suggestions have been put forward basically for us to explain. So they may be referring to 1, talking about the Trinity; 2, God and his angels; 3, God and creation; 4, God's majesty as expressed by a literature device known as the plural of majesty; or 5, a polytheistic view of God. So, since the Bible teaches elsewhere that there is only one God, the fifth option is not tenable. So, the 2 Hebrew words translated as image and likeness are often understood as having the same meaning. But some interpreters suggest that image refers to the ability to reason with likeness, referring to the spiritual dimension. So, what exactly is the image of God? Since the Bible teaches us that God is a spirit, many commentators believe that it refers to the non-material aspects of a person, our moral sensibilities, intellectual abilities, will, and emotions. So, based on God's commands, others have suggested that it consists of the role humans are to play on Earth, their rulership over the planet and its resources, and jeopardy they physically, mentally, and spiritually abilities that enable them to rule the earth. That's a lot. That's the second lesson. The third lesson In ancient times, an emperor might command statues of himself to be placed in remote parts of his empire. These symbols declare that there are areas where under his power and reign. So God placed humankind as living symbols of himself on earth to represent his reign. That's something to think about, Crusaders. So this interpretation fits well with the command that follows, to reign over all that God has made. It goes right along with the Bible verse itself. So that was the third lesson. The last lesson I want to check out. Let's look at, let us make man in our image. So this text does not specify the identity of the us mentioned here. Some have suggested that God may be addressing the members of his court where the Old Testament calls sons of God and the New Testament calls angels. But a significant objection is that man is not made in the same image as angels, nor is there any indication that angels participated in the creation of human beings. Many Christian and some Jews have taken us to be God speaking to himself, since God alone does the making in Genesis. So this would be the first hint of the Trinity in the Bible. Like I said, Crusaders, a lot to go over today, a lot to think about, and this is a very special Bible study because this has a lot of stuff that you don't really think about when it comes to just reading over the Bible. This is so dived in and so detailed that it makes you want to continue reading on and continue researching and studying what's actually being said here, you know what I mean? So, Crusaders, that was the Bible study. The Bible verse of the week is going to come from Psalm 139, verses 9 through 10. If I ride the wings of the morning, if I dwell by the farthest oceans, even there your hand will guide me, and your strength will support me. Beautiful couple verses right there. And finally, Crusaders, the question for the Crusaders. Very simple question. You've probably had this asked to you multiple times, or you've heard this multiple times. To you, what is the meaning of life? Very simple question, but simple is the last thing that you can call that answer. So, as always, you don't have to answer it to me. Answer it to yourself, just something that I like to add in there to get you thinking. That's all I've got for today, Crusaders. As I said, Friday I will be starting sermons, I guess a sermon series on Jesus, and easy is the last word I would use to describe taking on that task. But very happy, very blessed that my daughter put that in the cup. When I asked her about it, she just smiled and said, "Yeah, I did it." And I told her, I said, "Samara, you have no idea what you did by doing that." But God works in very mysterious ways, and very happy it was put there, Crusaders. So that's all I've got. I will catch you all Friday for the sermon, and hope you all have a great week. Thanks, Crusaders.